So let's start. Mm, Class 5. So today we will be discuss about async. Today we will be discuss about the callback and why we are using callback. So it's main important part. Okay. So if we are working with callback functionality, so basically JavaScript is the basically front-end language. Front-end language means it's mainly running on browser. Okay. So JavaScript, when we are working on JavaScript and it's mostly running on browser, so that means uh, we if we start with JavaScript programming or JavaScript development, so must be we have required index.html file is an important part for the JavaScript development. And after that we can use script, script.js is the another js file which is are required for supporting for the uh, DOM handling or HTML parts we can handle by the JavaScript dynamically. Okay.
Okay.
So how it possible? Basically, in JavaScript language, we can directly embed our JavaScript code into the HTML page. So if we want to embed our HTML page into the JavaScript, so this is the actually process where we can directly embed our JavaScript code. And one more things I wanted to know you. So basically, this particular JavaScript syntax, it is a recommendations for JavaScript developers community. When you are using any JavaScript files, so that JavaScript file should be write before starting body tag. Sometimes some people are this script are using in the header section. So header section we don't need don't use JavaScript in the header section. If you are did it before, so sometimes you get some problem, but you do not know how you are getting this problem and what is the perfect solution of that. So this is the actually main problem coming uh, from this uh, area section. Basically, if you are not placed your JavaScript code properly in your HTML page, then you may get some kind of issues when you are writing any JavaScript syntaxes. Understood?
Okay. Yeah.
So normally, where you placed your JavaScript syntaxes in your website page?
I not worked on the JavaScript.
Okay.
It's Windows applications I have worked on, so this issue I have not faced.
Okay.
It's new to me.
Okay. Okay. Actually, so many developers who are working on JavaScript, like you, because you work on Windows application mostly, it's okay. But sometimes if you are working on MVC software, I think they have some website development are involved there. I think so. In
Yes, yes,
MVC.
yes.
So that time some that uh, time some developers are missing this concept because sometimes they are using their own JavaScript into the header section because most of the times when we start our designing, so uh, Bootstrap actually recommended two files and to add their dependencies, and normally uh, who are beginner in website development, web page designing, they are sometimes mistake JavaScript code are added in the header section, but that is not a correct way. if you are adding your JavaScript links into the header section, that is very problematic, because in Java, when we are getting any kind of JavaScript objects, so JavaScript objects actually working on HTML DOM, and most of the times if we are creating any kind of element like div app ID like this, so this is the ID app. This ID app is coming here actually. If we want to push anything like this kind of thing, so this is the actually this data coming from coming indirectly. But if I want to push data from here, so app document document dot get element by id. So this is the document means basically a referred html file object, and after that get element by id is a function which is the find out the id name where is app. So this is the actually setup for app as a element object or null. Basically thing is, if app id is find it, so then it will be converted as a HTML element, otherwise it will be null. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So basically, if we want to push the data into the our HTML by the JavaScript, so this is the way. So this is the way where we are creating another element object which is called h1 tag, and document dot create element, it is a process to create h1 tag, and after that when we are push the h1 tag, so this is the hello world, just uh, like that, and after that we can use the style and color and set the color blue, and once it set, then we can push the element object into the app section. So this is our simple code which we can use for JavaScript basically. In this way actually working Angular also. Basically this is our simple code, but this way Angular also worked with this manner with their library. Okay. So how it work, and what kind of output we can get from the output. So run it browser. So once I run it in the browser, so this is the actually browser section, and now you can see hello world is coming from JavaScript syntax. How it possible? Look this. Here have no data are written here when we write the source code. So if we want to see the source code, so view page view source, and it is our source code option, and now you can see we did not have any hello world syntax, right?
Yes. We do not have anything.
But if we want to go inspect element option, that time we can see the output in under the app section, and h1 tag is there, and also we can see the style color blue which is written by the JavaScript. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Understood. But why
Understood.
why we are using this link in below of this page? If we are not using this part here, and if we are using this part here, so what will be problem? So let's see. Now we are not seeing any output.
Yes.
What is the problem? If we go to check our console, browser console, then it's said uh, cannot read property of null. That means append child not applicable. Append child means this particular functions is not applicable, because this time we are not get any element, we are get only null. So that means there have no append child function. Okay, so this is the actually main problem when if we are using our JavaScript syntax in header section, then we are get this kind of issues. So it is the recommendations. If you are using JavaScript in your application, in your website designing part, so always you placed your JavaScript syntax after the after the actually after the all syntaxes or before HTML tag ended, there you can place your JavaScript syntaxes, JavaScript links. All JavaScript links you are placing like this way. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we talk about uh, we talk about Spring, sorry, callback, callback function. So basically, why we need to use callback? Callback function. So basically, callback function is a special type of function when we want to get some data from other
So,
API endpoints.
yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Okay. If we are getting some data from any API endpoints, so that time we need to call, we need to set that data with some way. How? What is that way? So let's see. If we find out a process, if we want to integrate the API endpoints, so just open first API endpoints. I think you are worked on APIs before. Did you create any API endpoints before? Hello.
Not, I have used it. I have not created, I have used it.
Uh, I can't hear you
Hello.
properly. Your
Can
voice.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but last uh,
Okay.
what you say, I.
I have not created. I have not created one myself.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. You are not created API endpoints before. Okay.
Yes.
So basically, API endpoint means this is the one sample API endpoint. So basically, it is a sample API. Could you understand? This is a
Yes. It
this,
returns some value. It returns a value.
yes. It's returns some value with the JSON format.
Okay.
It's written some value with the JSON format. So this JSON format is called as a it's called as a JSON API, or it's have different name, REST API. Okay, so this called REST API or JSON output, JSON API output. So
Okay. Okay.
these two names are for this particular API. And when we are creating any kind of uh, XML or HTML related data, so that data called SOAP API. Okay, so if we are creating any data generation by XML, that time that API called SOAP. And if we are creating any JSON data API, so that called REST API. So basically REST API is most popular than SOAP API, because SOAP API is so much harder to produce, and also it's takes so many memory space, and building options is too much. Actually, it takes too much time and too much process to build the SOAP API. So, but REST API is modern API process, and most of the applications can support a REST API easily. Okay, basically if we are working on front end to back end, so most of the times we are choosing REST API mostly. and currently everywhere we are using REST API. So this is the thing. So here I have some samples REST API out here, and do you know what is this REST API? What is talking about? What is the actually basics of this API endpoints? How can fetch this data, and what is the data informations? This. Hello.
So APIs are used to publish information, and anyone with access to that API can use it.
But not anyone.
Like
Basically,
not anyone with up. Yeah. Okay.
basically not anyone. It's only can access who are actually developer. Without developers, they cannot understand the API. Basically, if normal user uh, visualize the data like this format, they cannot understand properly, right? It's
Yes. Yes. They can.
it's can
It's not
only
very easily readable.
it is only this kind of data can understand only uh, developers, and who have proper knowledge of APIs, they can understand. Not every kind of developers should understand. But API is a process where we can connect multiple uh, languages or processes or servers each other through the API. Understood the concept?
Yes.
Basically, thing is API is a bridge point. API is a bridge or communication bridge of multiple languages or multiple servers. Okay, so this is the actually
Okay.
main point. Basically, API is a connections point or communication point is a API. So when we are getting the data from the server side, from any programming language work behind, that's not important. We have main important part is API. Basically, if I need to present our data in the front end, so that time we must have to record the API first. You may work on any programming language behind with your server. That's not important, but as front end developer, I have important only API. If you produce API properly, then I can work on in front end. Not only front end, if I use with another programming language, maybe I need to some user informations, because you are creating user module for your application. You are create user module, and I create some another module like post or some salary or some kind of service module. So that module is a different language, maybe I can create. So if I create my application through the Java, and you are created your module by .NET, so how can communicate each other? So that time we have only one point to establish to communication with the API. So this is the API is a very useful when we are connecting each other. So this is the way. And when we are connecting each other, so here always we have two parts. One is the key, another is the value. So key always be string, key name always be string. So this is the string, this is the string, it is also string, it is also string. So key name always be string, but value may be differ as per requirement. Could you understand? Hello, hello Tag, are you there?
You understand? Key value pair and key is always same.
Key always be
Values
string.
will be
Key always be string.
yeah,
Key
same,
key
and
data type.
values will differ based on what we request.
What kind of data we require, and that type of data can be differed by the value. Basically, can you say what kind of data objects are here? Here we can
Well,
see,
yeah.
say,
Yes, sir.
what you say.
Details about a user address, everything.
Hmm. Basically, this is the actually part of data types. So basically, this is the ID, and when we are using ID, this particular ID treated as a number. Basically, we are not getting it as a number, but when it only once, that means it's actually get it as a number. But name we are get as a string, username also string, email also string. But when we get this address point, this address point is a object. You may call this address object also, because if you are creating this your data, so you need to set up it as a data types first, and after that you can be create this kind of data. When we work with .NET or Java, so before creating any data we must be create the proper types to create the data or consume the data. So basically, for the native language, we need to set up this object called as a address object, and after that it is also geo object, and we can also get this as company object. Okay, but in the JavaScript it's create so much simple, and we can get the data very simple way, and we can produce this data any other way. Okay, understood the concept?
Okay.
So
Yes, yes.
how can get this data in our application? How can get this data in our application? Because we are already seen this data, but if we seen this data, it's not valuable if we are not using in our UI, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Right.
if we want to integrate our data in our UI, so that time in the JavaScript we have JavaScript SCRI, SCRIPT script, Ajax, AJAX, Ajax call. JavaScript Ajax call is very important part when we need to access our JavaScript data from the um, API endpoints. So basically, here is that some tutorial option. If you want to learn about JavaScript Ajax, so this is the thing where you can learn about JavaScript Ajax easily. So I shared this link with you for JavaScript Ajax.
Okay.
And now here this JavaScript Ajax part is more important when we are working on API, because JavaScript cannot write data in the file directly, and also JavaScript cannot put any data into the database directly through the JavaScript language. JavaScript cannot do it directly when it is work on in browser. Here have some condition. When JavaScript work on browser, so that time that JavaScript syntax cannot be put data into the file directly, and it's cannot put the data into the database directly by the JavaScript, because JavaScript if it is work on browser, so that means JavaScript code are open for all. But if we are work with JavaScript for the backend part with the nodejs module, so that time JavaScript can be work as a background backend software language, and that time we can use JavaScript for every purpose. Okay, so JavaScript have
Okay.
two sides. One is the client sides, another is the uh, server sides. So
Server side.
basically, only one programming language in the world, only one programming language can work both side simultaneously. So for this purpose, JavaScript is more important than any other programming language. So basically,
Okay.
if we are get the data from the backend side, so we need to be access that data with this particular uh, object, and this particular objects actually comes from only browser. XML HTTP request. This XML HTTP request only comes in browser only. Without browser, you cannot.
But so, sorry to interrupt, but we can use instead of this JavaScript XML JavaScript Ajax, we can also use C Sharp, Java, or any programming language to populate the document. Correct?
When you generate JSON data, that time you can use any programming language.
Okay, but front end only JavaScript we can use to read it and populate the UI.
To populate the UI from the JSON API. If we get any
Yes.
data
Okay.
from JSON or any files, that time if we wanted to load any data from any file or any JSON URL, so that time we must be use this particular object to get the data. But it is actually way of creating the data process before, but currently we have so many other options also there, which can be used, which can be give us to very flexibilities to create our get our data from the API. We can manage that data uh, very easily in our application, but it is the bare minimum. If you have no library, third party library, you need to create your get your data from the server side things. So that time we can use this particular uh, process to create our data. Basically it is only for learning, understand how our data works behind the scene. Okay,
Okay.
so just I copy this function at this moment. And just I paste this data here. Okay, this is actually void function actually. And now here we see some codes here. First we are create a simple object, because you know it is a object when we are creating any new syntax, so that after that we are getting a object instance. So this is a object instance, and this is the class, and this class only supports on browser only, otherwise it's not using in the server side. It's not working on server side, it's only work on browser only. XML HTTP request. Okay, and when we are get the XML
But
HTTP.
here, so this one, JavaScript, it works only on browser side, you are saying, this one.
Yeah.
XML HTTP request.
Yes, XML HTTP request. This is the class name, and this class name only you are getting from the browser only. Without browser, you cannot use this XML HTTP request, because sometimes if you are think I will use this particular syntax for with the nodejs environment, it does not be work.
Okay.
Basically for that particular reason I just create this way. I before last class I work with only nodejs environment with the main.ts file, but this time
Okay.
I created a html file, and after that I working on javascript uh, file with the html files. Why? Because this particular syntax not be work on nodejs module. So basically it's if it is not working on nodejs module, so how can I know this, how can understand about the callback concepts, or how can know the data JavaScript is working properly. Understood?
Yes.
Okay. So basically thing is here, if I get any data from any files or any API endpoint, so that time we need to call this particular object first, and after that here have some functions are here. On ready state change, on ready state change, this is the actually way where we are getting a function like this, and it's called sometimes anonymous function, or sometimes it's a expression type function. Okay, so basically this type of functions is calling for get the data, and when we get the data properly from the file or from the API, wherever you have that your data, so after that, if we get the data, then we push that data into the HTML, and when data push the HTML, so this is the process. But actually thing is, this file, this execution happened by this objects are created. After that, set the file location here and send the request. These three processes are done quickly, but
One doubt. So where it will send the request? We need that API endpoint where we are defining
I could not.
API endpoint.
Hmm.
That API endpoint URL
Hmm.
where we will be defining.
Here.
Okay.
Basically, in
And what data to get that query also, it will be in the Ajax info.txt.
Ajax info.txt,
Because
we are
that
not.
API endpoint,
Please complete your question, then I say.
my question is, one item is where that API URL will be defined. Another question is, what we are asking from that API URL. For example, there are 1,000 customer names in that API. API publishes any customer information, correct? So we need all customer information or only specific customer information. How do we define that?
Okay. Actually, it's defined by the server when you get the data from the server endpoint. How it work? Let's see.
Okay.
So now here we can get the users data, right? Here we can get all the users
Yes.
data from the server API, right? But if we want
Yes.
second data only, so we just get this data by 2 here, and then we can get only second data from the API endpoint only, and this is
Okay.
actually working from the server. This part actually working from the server only. Understood?
Okay. Yeah.
But if I get all the data from the backend, sometimes we can manage data by the front end also. But for that particular purpose, we need to some more expertise on JavaScript part. Then you can managing all the data specific by user information. Okay, but sometimes
Okay.
some features are also implemented by server sides also. Okay.
Okay.
So it was the API point, but basically here are using only file name. So basically this file name can be used here data.txt, and here I just use this is the sample data from the file. Okay, so this is the sample data from the file. This is the actually output, the output my data of this particular thing. Okay, so this is the simple text. But if I want to get this data from the file and produce that data into the into this section, so how can possible? So basically possibilities comes from here. Here we are using the app section, get element by id, and after that we can use the inner html, and here I can use the data.txt here. So now this data is a data file is here, and we can get that data by the JavaScript into the HTML file. How it work? Let's see. If I refreshed, so it's not working at this moment. Just hold on, one more. Just I refresh it. What is the issue? Okay, so basically maybe actually problem is this problem comes from this particular path mainly.
Okay.
Basically in this file actually comes from the local file options, but why not? Oh, sorry. Problem is this particular functions is declared here, but we are not calling this function. So we need to be call this function, because if we are declared it, but if we are not calling, so we are not get the data. Okay, so now we can see the data.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically thing is our code also correct, but we are not calling the functions actually. So if we are called our function, then we can see the data properly into our HTML. But as per source code, if we are see the source code, so in the source code we have no data here. This data actually comes from the JavaScript, from the file, right? Understood?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is the way to get the data from the file, as well as if we want to get the data from the user endpoint, we can also do this with the same way.
Okay.
Okay, so we get all the data from the backend API, or sorry, we get all the data from any files or any other API endpoints. Our code is almost same, right?
Yes. Yes.
Almost same, but here I have some issues.
Only the API name differs.
Hmm?
Only the API name differs. The file name differs.
Yes, file name. This URL parts are differ by the location, by the file location or address, and sometimes it's differ by methods also, because if we are using, if we want to get the data, because we have some methods options also required. So you can see here are some methods name: get, post, put, patch, delete. So this is also methods, and these methods can be used here. Understood? Because
Yeah.
if your server side setup, these methods for API accessing, that time you, as a front-end developer, we also need that methods for that particular API endpoints. Okay, but most of the times we are use get methods normally. Basically, if we are see any files in the browser, or mostly if we are see any in data in the browser, so that time we seen get method normally. Okay.
Okay.
So basically, get method is a default method for the browser, but post, put, patch, delete, it is a special type of methods which are not visible directly in the browser. It's are working with the mostly form data option. If we are using HTML forms, so that time we can pass the methods by the forms only. Otherwise, we can
Okay.
also pass the data with the uh, API access options also. Basically, this is the API access point, and through the API access point also we can passing the methods. Otherwise, we are not any other way to pass the data or check the data output like get. Okay.
Okay.
So now, if our how we are get our data, so this is our data endpoint where we are get the data. So if we are use it as return from here, and after that, if we want to check this data like this var and data, and then we want to see that data into the console, so check out it is possible or not in the browser section. So now we can see this data is not coming from here because this return type cannot give the data into the variable output.
Okay.
Basically, this is the main problem. If we want to get this data response, basically this data response actually are working, but if we want to use it repeatedly by the parameters, basically if we want to use parameters like URL, so if we want to use it URL, so we can use it as URL also here. Okay, but just hold on little bit. I just back here, and now I just use the URL here as parameter, and we can pass that parameter here as URL. Okay, so after using this parameter URL, so now this time we are not getting any kind of data, but if we want to use data.txt here, so we can see the value output from here. Understood? As parameter passing, we can see all the data.
Yeah.
I just got a call. Can I pick up that? Oh.
Yes, sir. Please.
It's okay. Call is disconnected.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, this is the way where we can use the parameter, and after using the parameter, we can see that data into the browser by the parameter, right?
Yeah.
But as per normal programming language, we must also get the data when we get the response, right? It is the normal process. If
Yes.
we get the
Yes.
response, then we can return that response, and after that we can see that data in the out variable, and after that we can check that data into the console. But this time it's not possible, right?
But yeah.
uh,
Okay. Let's. Yeah.
Say your question. Say your question.
No. No.
Basically, it is the way. If we put any parameter, so then we can use multiple times with other values when we are using the parameter. But if we want to get the data from this particular functions for reusable purpose, that time it's not possible to use return, right?
Okay.
Basically, when we are using the return function, return syntax, if we are using return syntax, so that particular functions may be use multiple locations, right?
Yes.
Basically, when we are creating any return type of functions, so that particular functions can be use multiple locations with their proper parameters. But
Yes.
this time we are using this parameter, but now, but also we are not seeing any output as per our requirement, right? So if we are
Yes.
not getting any output as per our requirement, so that means here have some problem.
Yes.
What kind of problem? It's called synchronous problem. this is
Okay.
this is called synchronous problem. Synchronous problem means it have some state, means here have some blinking point, means it's just few seconds our data come into the scene, and after that it's wipe out. So basically here have some state like 1 2 3 4. So when state is 4 and status 200 means if API is live, API endpoint is live, if we are not getting any kind of error, so that means it is 200 status. And if our ready state is 4, so that means we can get the data from the API endpoint properly. Okay.
Okay.
But if we
Okay.
get the data API endpoint, but this data not be staying for the future access, immediately
Okay.
this data wipe out, and uh, data value will be null after using this line. After actually this line not be staying when generate the data, when data
Okay.
comes from the browse comes from the API. So this is the actually problem. It is a synchronous problem, and when we get this kind of problem, so we need this data to use any other section. So if we need this data to use other section, so that time we can use another parameter called as a callback. Okay.
Okay.
And this is the way to get this data by that function. Uh, so now we can use this function. We can use this function like this way. Callback. What is the callback? Callback is a parameter, but it is a type of function parameter. Understood? Basically,
Yes.
if we are declaring the function here, and after that that function need to be called. Understood? If
Yes.
I call this function, after that we need to declare the function, and after that we need to be call. But here we don't know where is the callback. We don't know where is callback. You know where is callback
No,
function?
I don't know.
We don't know where is callback function, but maybe uh, here is this callback, the parameter worked as a reference point, right? Because if we are
Yes.
using any parameter here, so this is called reference parameter. So this is the reference, but actual data is here. Actual data is here. So if we are using the reference data point, and we need to get the data from the this particular file, so after this we need to use here two parameters. So first parameter we already use as string because we are using URL, and is the second parameter is the data. Second parameter is the function. And when we are using the function, so this is the function calling like this, and this particular function is called as a anonymous function because these functions have no name, but this particular response comes from this section. And after this, if we get the data, so just we get the data by the response directly in the console.log. Okay, so this time this data are generating from here, and we see the data from here in the browser. Let's see, that data is showing in the console section. Understood?
Yes.
This data actually comes as a string format. Okay, so if it is come as string format, but we need to be converted it as JSON. So if we want to convert it JSON, so just we need to write it json.parse, and we uh, pass the string value here, and after that we can see the data as JSON format, and now we can see all the data as object. Now
Okay. Okay.
it's a JavaScript object.
Okay.
After using this syntax, we get all the data as a JavaScript object easily.
Okay.
Okay, so once it created by the JavaScript object, after that we can create JavaScript data by this way. Basically, this is the data. Okay, and this is the data, and after this data we are use the ul part, and then we can use uh, we can data, and this is the function of the for each. For each is a array function. Basically we are getting this data as array. Now here we get the data as array format. Okay, so when we get this data as array format, after that we can see all the data like this. Could you understand
Oh,
this format?
yes. Yes.
So this is the process where create the ul element, and after that it's create the li element, and in the li element we can set the username and email id, and then we set up that data in the ul element, and then we can append that ul element with the app section, and if I save this file, we can see the data in the browser.
Okay.
So this is the way which can be usable, more usable by the callback function. So this is the callback function, and this callback function currently used as a anonymous function. But if we want that function by name, like uh, get data, it is a function name, and if I use this function name like this, but after this creating function, we just pass that function as parameter only, not using any brackets here, just pass
Okay.
like this. If you are pass this function, and you can see output same, because we already get all the data by this function. So this is the separation process if we want to separate by the anonymous from the anonymous process. Okay, so this is the way
Okay.
of callback functionality is used. Understood?
Yes.
This is the uses of
Yes,
callback.
sir.
Okay, this is the uses of callback, and you can also learn about the callback sections here step by step. You can see these things actually uh, given you proper understanding.
Okay.
Okay, you can learn about everything which I actually discuss with you. Basically,
Sure.
this API endpoints is more important when you working as a backend software developer. So you must have knowledge in API generation, and also you have knowledge how that data work into the front end. So this is the process where you can see in some processes, and also that data how it work for the uh, front end section, and how it write in the backend by PHP. So this is the PHP part. uh, Here is a PHP file where generate the data from the PHP site. Here is the ASP, how uh, data generated by ASP server side. So this is the ASP server side point. I think ASP very much understandable for you.
Yes.
So this is the ASP point. And also if we work on Ajax database, so if we want to work on Ajax by data for the database, so that time it's work on MySQL by the PHP server, and get the data from the databases and produce the data into the by the PHP page, and after that data present into the front end section. So this is some examples is here which can be read you to understand the whole concept. Okay, so this is the
Okay.
main thing which can be used, but we have another options. In these particular options actually worked before when we are worked on ES5 version, ES5 version of JavaScript. JavaScript Ajax. ES5 version of JavaScript when we worked, so that time we can use it like this way. But currently we have some changes. Can I talk about that process, or we can end it?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
It's your if we can talk also if it's fine with you.
Okay. I do not have any problem. So back up. So here we can create another file script script.js, another file. Ajax calling almost same. Ajax calling process almost same, but this particular process are different by the latest features which called promise. Here we just return first, and then we are I can use new promise. Promise is the another object where we can use this particular functionalities after using this. If I use, then this callback does not work here. Here we can use resolve if we are get our data properly, and if we are not get data properly, else we can get the error if our data is not available, and if we facing any challenges, on error, then we can use network error. So some type of process we can produce here. Okay, so this is the actual process to access our data like this way. Could you understand this
Okay.
syntax?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Basically, this is a class. Okay, this is already a class which called promise class, and in this class we are using some kind of uh, constructor as function. Basically, this is a function, and these functions have two parameters like resolve and reject, which is a method function, and that method function used like this way. If our data getting properly, then our data produced by resolve, and if our data not produced properly, then we can get see the error from here. Okay,
Okay.
so how can use this particular functions for our application? So if I want to see our data, so first thing, load doc. So first thing, we see the data dot txt directly. Okay, but this time I just use it, but if I use it, we cannot see any output, right?
Yeah.
Why
Yes.
not? Because here we don't have any other parameter without URL. So if we are not using any URL, so basically here we are using the promise class object. So basically here we are return a object of promise class. So if we are passing the promise class, so object, so after that, after using this function, we can use the dot function, dot operator, and after dot operator you can see these three functions are here. If we get the data, then we can use then function, and then methods, and after that we can see the data into our browser. And if we are not getting any data, if we are getting any error, so then we can see the data in error. And if you work anything, if you are getting error or data properly, if you are get your data properly, or also if you are not get your data, you get an error, whatever you get, finally always be accessible. Because sometimes if you know, if you learn about C, so when we worked on file section, so basically every time if our data put into the file or not, always we need to be close that file after the process, right? File or database.
Yes.
Otherwise
Yes. Yes.
otherwise that files will be corrupted. Otherwise that data will be corrupted if we are not
Yeah.
closing that file. That means uh, if we are not close that file or close that data base object, that means that data could not be saved properly. So anything it's happen, its data is coming or not, anything is happening, finally can be accessed always. So this is the process. So here we are get the data response by the then, catch, and finally. So if we get the data properly, then we can see the then option. If we are not get the data properly, then we can see the data problem from the error section. And every time we can see these finally options. So now we can get the data. This is the sample data from the file. We are seen both of way, in the browser, in the console mode, but request completed we are seen from the finally section, right?
Yeah.
But if we just change the name and this data.1.txt is available in our path,
No.
so if it is not
No.
available, so then we can see the error 404. Okay, so
Okay.
that means our file is not available, so then this reject part are generated and that reject part are visible from here, and request completed also worked. Okay, so this is the
Yes.
way which can be used by this particular person. So it is complicated or simplified?
It's simplified.
It's simplified. You looks
Yes, it's simplified. It captures error, everything, right?
okay, okay, okay. That's right. But we can also capture error also from this section. If we want to get error, so we can use error callback, and after that we can use it error callback from here also, similar like that. Okay, it is
Okay.
not a thing only we are get the error from here only. We can get also from here, but we need to use another parameter like this. If we want to get the
Okay.
error parameter, so that time we need to error facility through this process. So first is the um, callback, then process, and after that we can use the error parameter. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the way where we can use also error parameter passing by the parameter option. We have that kind of possibilities, but why this particular parts is updated now? Why this part is updated now? Because this is also okay, this is also good options which can see here also, that same thing, similar things we can see here also. But why this particular things is required? Why these things actually required here? Can you see?
No, sir.
Okay, so basically here
I thought it's captured.
actually when we get the data from this API endpoints, this API endpoints data actually called as a uh, promise data. Okay, so actually we get this data as promise return. Okay, so this data return as promise. Okay, return as promise. When we get the data as promise, so this is the normal way to calling the data, but we can use it very easily with the new versions of JavaScript. Just I don't use this course actually written by AI quickly, but I can write it manually also. Basically, into the ES version 7, ES ES 7 version, from ES 7 version, this async await is coming. These particular versions coming in the ES6. This particular process are coming into the ES6, but in the ES7 versions comes this kind of process, async and await. So basically here we are seeing a problem. If we get the data, then we need to be use the then options. But if we get any kind of problem, then we need to be use catch. But if we want multiple data at a same time, so how can manage that? Because one API is calling, but under that we need to calling another API. So we get all the API, 2 or 3 API if we want uh, simultaneously. So that time we have some problem that's called callback problem. Callback problem, basically thing is we need to get all the data together, and we need to use some conditions to matching data for the user section. So that time we get some issues to merge all the data together. Could you understand what I want to say?
No, sir. Can you repeat?
Actually, I wanted to say, if we want to join the data, basically join the data means you have two databases. Here is the data, post data, and another is the users data. Okay.
Okay.
These two APIs we need to be calling in a same time.
Okay.
If we want to call this both API endpoint with same time, and also we want to join this data with this user data, so how can it possible? Programmatically is possible to join two datas by their references.
Yes. Yes. With any foreign key reference, we can join them.
Basically which is possible in database section, but this time the databases are not do it for us. We are
Yeah.
get all the data in separately, but in the front end section we need to set all the data together in our UI.
Okay.
If we need to do that things, so that time we have issues to calling multiple APIs with this endpoint, and that is the very difficult way to manage the data. Basically one API endpoint, maybe we are calling user first, then we are calling post URL after this section, and then we can join the data together. Basically if we are not calling both datas simultaneously, we are not join all the data as per their reference ID, right?
Yes.
And in that time we have some problem, because and it's called callback problem. Basically under that callback we are need to calling another person. So that particular things are solved by this particular syntax, async await. Basically if we are using async await, so that time we can calling multiple URLs by a line, only. Okay. One line is calling, another line is calling, another line is calling, so we can multiple lines can be calling by line, and if our data request is completed properly, then next API will be work, then next API will be work. So this is the way which can be used by this callback options also. But it is a very handy way to get the data and merge the data into the front end section properly. But with this way it is so much difficult. It is basically I also faced this kind of problem when I worked on 2015.
Okay.
But these features actually comes in 2017, and it's when it comes in 2017, after this we get really easiest way to get the data line by line, and we can join all the data together very easily. So
Okay.
this is the way to solve our problem. So first thing, we just get the output which I requested, but now I just want to uh, connect two APIs. So first APIs is users information. So first thing, we can get the users data. So here we can say users data. Okay, and after that, here we can get users data, and also we can get posts data for the post section. Okay, if we get two data, then we need to be merge all data. How can merge data? So here I have if we want to merge data by user ID, so then users uh, users data, it's good, and after that const user data, const user data. So basically after getting the data response, user response, user response, post response, all data need to be set up at as a API, and final response if we want to set, now we can see all the data into the browser like this way. Okay, so basically user data is 10 and post data is 100. Just we are seen here user dot length and post dot length. Okay,
Okay.
but we need to if we want to join this data, if we want to join this data, so uh, join join data, if we want sorry, not JSON data, and join data together. So that time users data to map with the this way. Basically thing is, if users data is coming, user data is coming, so here I just use spread operator. Spread operator means users property uh, going with this particular section, and after that posts data. So here is the um post response, sorry, post data from here, and after that post data also filtered out by the user ID. Basically here we can see user ID here already. By the user ID we are matching all the data and push that data with the post options. Okay,
Okay.
and now we wanted to see join data into the console first, and then we can see into the browser. So now we are seeing it only 10 data in the browser response, but here I have catch under the single user. We can see the posts option which are actually not before in the user section, but now it's already joined into the front end side
Okay.
with the users post, and this is the posts to create from the front end section.
Okay.
Okay, And if we want to see it in the response section by user data, so here we can use user name. If we want to see username, okay, so actually user sorry, not user, join data, and here I just simply under the post we can use by username, and then we can use the ul tag, and we want to see the title of the users data, and then we can now here we just use the inner HTML part for the response section. So now we can see, sorry, okay, actually here we need to be use break tag for these sections.
Okay.
Basically \n it is actually working on CLI section, but for the browser part we need to use the break to see this data. Okay, so 10 users, and every users have 10 data
Okay.
basically. So this is the user data information in the first line, and second we can see the posts data, and we can see the all post data by users. So this is the process to data merging options by the fetch API.
Okay.
Sorry, not fetch API, with the async await process. This is the actually
Async await. Okay.
if we are using the async await, so with this process we can fetch the data through the multiple APIs, and after that we can merge that APIs by this way, and then we can see. So basically this is sometimes it's difficult to joining process, because if we want to join the process by the server side, so there have syntax for join syntax, but here have some difficulties to join the data. with this way, but it is the possible. It is the possible
Okay.
if we want to
Okay.
join multiple datas together.
Okay.
Is it knowledgeable?
Very much.
So this is the actually way of our knowledge of JavaScript. Basically, this JavaScript knowledge is most important when you are working in frontend. Basically, frontend, which we seen in the JavaScript or TypeScript, whatever I discuss with you, everything are working on Angular also when you are working on front-end development.
Okay.
So, do you have any questions, any understanding, anything?
No, sir. No, sir. It's clear.
Okay. So, if it is clear, then I uh, suggest you please do practice,
Okay.
because without practice
Right.
you can't understand properly how it work and why it work.
Okay.
Because so many times you need to be use this process in the JavaScript part. When we work it in JavaScript part, it is looks pretty longer code, but when we work with these same things with the framework, so that time it will be very simpler or very uh, used to for the front end development. Basically, framework are minimize our processes. So this is the basics JavaScript. But when we are work with Angular, so that time this front end are managed by HTML section. So our code will be very much simpler, very much effective when we are
Okay.
working on with Angular. But concept is same. Basically, concept is same.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
this type of concept is required everywhere when you are working on
Okay.
JavaScript or TypeScript.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so can we end our session today?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So one more thing.
Thank you. Thanks.
Uh,
Yeah.
one more thing I